We're going to talk aliens, UFOs, ghosts, spiritual and paranormal. From all of the three moons, beyond your wildest dreams. Nice.
TruthSeekah and or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark savage!
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark-sided stuff!
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, TruthSeekah. This is the TruthSeekah podcast. Excited, delighted to be with you guys again for another episode where we cover all things spiritual. It's going to be a good one. Make sure you guys stay tuned. Shout out to everybody who is hanging out with us in the live stream, whether you're listening on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, wherever you are, D-Live, man. Shout out to you guys. If you have any questions or comments, man, make sure you type those in the chat, and I'll be sure to get those over to today's guest, man. It's going to be a good one. I want to say a huge thank you to everybody supporting my work via Patreon. This is a listener-supported, listener-funded show. Doesn't exist without your help. So thank you from the bottom of my heart for co-creating this with me and bringing this to the people, man. You guys are awesome. Thank you for partnering with the work. I want to give a shout out to some of the latest patrons within the last week or so. Shout out to Justice. Thank you for coming on. Mr. Sal Wukong. Thank you. And Lily. Thank you guys for believing in the work and coming on. If you'd like to support, head on over to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. There you get access to my entire discography of music, which is 200 plus songs. You get access to our Thursday night School of the Mystics and a bunch of other really cool stuff. You got to check it out. A bunch of cool stuff over there. Patreon.com/TruthSeekah. October the 18th, we are starting our 8-week program, The Path of the Healer, for those of you guys who are wanting to be trained on stepping out into doing consultations and one-on-one sessions and being trained from the ground up. Everything that I have done to get to the place where I am today, kind of mapped out my own spiritual journey and what led me here, what were some of the obstacles. We're going to get through and get over those things together. If you're looking to grow in a small community with this, we'll be doing it for 8 weeks, every Sunday night for 8 weeks. So if this is something that you're interested in, head on over to the website, check it out. Path of the Healer is at TruthSeekah.com. Also, really quick, our retreat coming up in December the 12th is our Reset, Refresh, and Renew co-ed retreat for men and women. And if you want tickets to that, make sure you go over to the website and get those, because there's only 2 tickets left for the ladies. And so make sure you get those, because they'll be gone very soon. So check it out, TruthSeekah.com. Without further ado, we're jumping into today's discussion. Welcoming my guest today, Mr. Benjamin Decker. Benjamin, welcome to the TruthSeekah podcast, bro. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks so much for having me.
We're going to talk about it all, man. Mindfulness, meditation, spirituality, Christianity, Jesus, Christ, consciousness, all of the good stuff, man. And into a lot of the same things, man. I've been checking out some of your interviews and some of your work, and your books are amazing. So it's going to be a good talk. I already know.
Yeah, I've been checking your stuff out too, and even just hearing right now the retreats and the programs and stuff that you got going on, really cool, really
Heck
cool.
yeah. Heck yeah. So man, let's just instead of me giving you an introduction, just kind of give a brief intro, who you are, what you do. If you can sum it up, I don't know if you can, because if you're like me, you wear a lot of hats. But
Yeah,
who are you, man? What you
well,
bring to the table? Let's start there.
yeah. I think I think the so many people, everyone who's going to ever hear this is a multidimensional person. You know, we're multidimensionals. We're born into this interesting world. So I think all of us have a lot of different sides to us. Um, I'm a meditation teacher and an author. Those are the big things. I do a lot of work in social justice, um, racial justice, gender equality, climate action, um, ending poverty, anti-human trafficking. That takes up a lot of my time, which I love. Greatest thing in the world. And also uh, raised in a Christian household, not just any regular Christian. I was actually a direct descendant of the founding families of the Mormon Church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So raised in a very esoteric Christian tradition. A lot of people don't know that the Mormon Church, uh, of course, it's not really called that. That's the nickname for it because of the Book of Mormon. But the church the church was founded by a bunch of Freemason men. So a lot of what's in that tradition's upbringing and training is actually occult Freemason Egyptian ritual and ceremony. So that introduced me to what I did not realize was a very esoteric kind of Christianity, because you just think you're Christian. We just thought we were Christian, and my whole family's still practicing, huge prominent members of that community. And I became a meditation teacher, hypnotherapist, Reiki and pranic healing, Qigong practitioner, Tai Chi practitioner, um, plant-based nutrition, love the Bible. I practice and study something called uh, collaborative religion. So instead of comparative religion, collaborative religion. I believe that God's actually real. The universe actually does have divine higher energies and forces within it, and that they all go by a bunch of different names. And so I love to study all the different traditions. So I've written 4 books. Practical meditation for beginners, the first one. Second one, meditations on Christ, which I would love to talk to you about. And third one, daily mindfulness, which is 365 practices. And the fourth one, which just came out, is modern spirituality.
Awesome. And all those books for everybody, those are available on your website and Amazon.com, correct?
Yep. And Barnes and Noble, anywhere. So you find
Yeah.
yourself at a bookstore, tell them my name, they got something.
Oh yeah. I went to your website, man. You got all the heavy hitters vouching for your work, man. That's huge.
That's been such a blessing. It's like they say when they say that these are the things that are ideas whose time have come. There's nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And I think, like, you're a truth seeker, I'm a truth speaker. I'm only just saying true things, and so
Yes.
truth hits. you
Yeah.
know
There's something about that. Like everybody, like all my Christian friends, because I started out as a Christian rapper doing Christian hip hop back in the day,
Love it.
just telling my story and going to speak at these youth retreats and stuff like that. And people are like, Jesus is the truth, and you supposedly have found the truth. Why are you still looking for it? And it's like, they try to use that as a dig or whatever, but it's like, truth about what? Like, to what
Mhm.
end? Like, the longing of the truth behind UFOs, or truth behind plant medicines, or the truth behind reality or manifestation or healing. Like, come on, like it's a lot bigger than we've been told, and that's part of being the seeker, right? Is one who's just constantly seeking the truth and not taking somebody's word for it. So for you, man,
Yeah.
starting out, like, what got you into this? Obviously, with the Mormon background and just this esoteric symbology and stuff like that. That once you start looking into it, you're like, oh, okay, this is a lot deeper than we've been told, and not everybody looks into it. So, did you ever have any supernatural experiences when you were a kid, or have those weird dreams and situations going on in the middle of the night?
You know, I want to just address, first of all, yes, and I'm so glad you asked that question. I just want to address something that you just said about, like, Jesus being the truth. This is a big, big universe, and we're little bitty, little teeny tiny little things in this big, big universe. There's a lot of truth out there, and Jesus may know it all, but I'm not Jesus, you know. So we do have to seek
Yeah.
and find, you know, and in fact, he's the one that tells us to do that, you know, seek and find, you know, seek and you'll find. And so yeah, one friend of mine who's the son of a really prominent pastor, founder of a really cool nonprofit organization that I worked full time for a little while. Great guy, very Christian, but very traditional, but also very like present with the modern world. And he said, "Look, God is huge. God is so much bigger than I can imagine. God's huge." So yeah, there's a lot of truth, and we process it in a lot of different ways. So there's a lot to be known.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you're saying, the whole extraterrestrial conversation is an entire conversation, as is the colonization of other planets by humans, which is imminent. There's a lot to be said about a lot of these things, but I want to get to your question, supernatural experiences. When I was really little, I had what I was not aware of, but three particular gifts that my parents even tell me about. One was a connection to the other side. So I remember one particular story of my parents telling me that I was describing someone in the room who was my great grandmother who had already died. Another time where I was very sick. I had like scarlet fever and was like super sick. And they were worried about me, and my parents slept with me in their bed. And I woke up and I saw at the foot of my bed a little boy. And that little boy looked just like me. And that little boy thinks this is his house. And then come to find out, my mother was, we later found out my mother was pregnant with my little brother who looks just like me. Um, so definitely seeing spirits, family members especially. There were some kind of scary experiences, some sort of almost like what you would say is like a demonic experience. So those things happened. Being able to guess things before they were happening, predict certain things, uh, essentially having prophetic words of knowledge. And also being raised in a tradition where we were at church at least 3 times a week, and we were being taught to hone those particular gifts. And we talked about the gifts of the spirit, and we practiced them. So for me, I was being raised, being told you're supposed to be having those. This is what they are. This is how to do it. And I was having things that weren't described by what was happening at the church. The biggest thing was astral projection. I was definitely having these experiences of leaving my body, experiencing what's going on in my home and even the neighborhood as young as like 8, 9, 10. And they were too real, and I started to get better at it, if that makes sense. I remember lifting up very high above my home, and the slightest pull to the left would send me flying in the left super quick. And I couldn't control like my momentum when I was astral projecting. Astral projecting is, of course, when the consciousness is non-local in the body, and can be in the body still alive and all that. And so I had all those experiences, and the church wasn't being able to answer those particular questions, which I think are more common than people even say and realize. And then what happened was the little thing called the internet came out. And so so I was over there trying to find out what my dreams meant. And then that's when I was introduced into astral projection, different tools to hone those kinds of gifts. And then that was really around age 9. And so sort of like secretly putting myself through my own little secret internet mystery school, like so many people today. Luckily we were early adopters, so I got like a blessing of where had I been born 5-10 years earlier, that wouldn't have been the option for me at age 9. But yeah, interesting that you ask about supernatural experiences. Yeah, that was a huge part, especially as a little kid, especially for what brought me into seeking what the other traditions and other cultures had to say about spirituality.
Now, you were talking about how some of the stuff that you were experiencing wasn't like they described, right? Because they're like, hey, this is pretty much everything that can happen. Only this can happen, that can happen, this can happen. I come from the prophetic movement as well, and they welcome these experiences. But every now and then, someone would have something crazy like in the church and say like, Moses came into their room and revealed some kind of secrets, or Enoch showed them stargates in the heavens. You know what I'm saying? These crazy, like, everybody's like, hold on, wait. I never seen Enoch. You know what I'm saying? So you would have these experiences that people are like, some would call BS, some would say, no, those are demons or whatever. And so did you have some of those type of experiences that scared people? Did it say, that's not God, that's demonic? Because I did hear you mention the demons and stuff. Or because a lot of people even believe, let's just be honest, like in Christian tradition for sure, they would say the majority of those kind of experiences were demonic, and that God doesn't visit you that way, or you're not able to see ghosts. There's no such thing as ghosts. That wasn't your little brother. That was a demon. They're like just weird theology or whatever, just because they haven't experienced it. Was there like a coming of age for you where you had to say, like, embrace who you are, even though it was different than, hey, this is the guidelines for all of this stuff?
Definitely. I feel very much, I just turned 33. I feel very aware that I'm not the same as a lot of other people. And I feel really aware that neither are they. We're a lot more of a diverse, unique community than people really realize as far as humans. So what I really think about when you say this is, look, first, the world doesn't understand the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I would say that's true about any community that you're not a part of. You don't understand it. Each religion and community is internally diverse.
Yeah.
So we can't say Mormons believe this.
Yeah.
Prophetic Christians believe that. They, like you said, internally, some people say that's BS, that's a demon. And meanwhile, other people will still say, wow, what a blessing that Enoch revealed himself to you and gave you that message. It's internally diverse. So I think that that's important. One of the things that was really intense for me as a little kid was someone telling me that because of my family and I did this show and tell thing. We had to do a presentation about our family, and we made like a poster board, and I had like the early LDS temples and and different things about like my ancestors who came to this continent pre-1776. And ended up creating the Mormon Church, which now has nearly 200 temples around the world, 16 million members, and that's like my bloodline or whatever, and I presented this thing at school, and there was this whole really challenging process that came in for sort of the rest of that school year. And it was this nearby church called the Vineyard. And this nearby church had decided that Ben Decker was going to be a person that they talked about. And I was only like 10 or 11.
Wow.
And they taught their community in my little small town in the Midwest about something called the Illuminati, and how the Decker family is in the Illuminati, and how the Decker family and the Mormon Church is a black magic Illuminati cult. And look, here's the thing. That was such an important blessing to me, because it got me to go really deep into the research of what Illuminati was before a lot of the conspiracy stuff came out. Because there's some interesting true stuff in there, and then there's a lot of fear-based interpretations that cause distortions too. And so early on, I'm studying the Illuminati, and look, that term is an occult term. And it is not an actual club or group originally in its original origin. There might be groups, and there are several groups that call themselves that or use that word. And they all have varying levels of integrity and moral authority, and lack thereof. But that term originally, of course, means enlightened.
Yeah.
And so it just refers to the telepathic field of people who've broken through to another level.
Mm-hmm.
And that other level is experience of oneness. So Illuminati just means someone who knows that we're all one, knows that one thing is happening. That's what that word really means. And so that was a special blessing for me to learn that, because that's something a lot of people take a long time to really learn.
Yeah.
And then it takes you through this whole thing where it's like, wow, a lot of those things that they said about Illuminati was actually fear, distortion, just like burning the witches at the stake. These weren't people doing human sacrifices that were burned at the stake. You start to look at the individual cases of who was burnt at the stake and hung and executed for witchcraft. These were not what we identify as like satanic witches. These were largely women who were popular, who had authority in their communities, who had leadership. Some of them may have been astrologers or worked with plant medicine or worked with herbs or as even therapists and counselors. And we're not talking about real gnarly quote unquote black magic types. That's not who was burned at the stake. Mm-hmm. So we got to realize a lot of these people who we think are the bad guys are not bad guys. Our ancestors, through fear and through tribalism and needing to protect and defend the tribe, distorted and misunderstood a lot of things about neighboring cultures and traditions,
Yeah, and then you find out with the Illuminati thing, which was huge, is that the early Christians called themselves the Illuminati, the illuminated ones. And then going back to the scriptures, like I love that word is used over and over again. When you are illuminated with the light of Christ, or illuminate thy understanding. It's like, oh, wow. Now the term the Illuminati isn't such a bad term. Now I accept it. Yes, I'm Illuminati. I'm illuminated with the love and light of Christ.
Right. I think Illuminati is, in its truest sense, I hope to be Illuminati. I pray to be Illuminati. We aim towards that. On a good day, maybe I have a shimmer of it somewhere, that is so I agree with that. Exactly what you said, for me. And it took me to something where know thyself. Mm-hmm. It's the light, realizing that when the light is on in the room, and the illumination and light is huge, and not just the Bible, but every ancient tradition. Yeah. When the light's on in the room, we see what's up. We see what's going on in the room. The light's off in the room, you hit your shin on the coffee table, you knock stuff over, you accidentally knock over the bookshelf or whatever. You're stumbling around in the dark. When the light is on, you see. So illumination means being able to see things in truer context without distortions. So
now, what would you say about this other term, which is a scary term, which when I found like, what I'm saying, just somebody who loves definitions, right? These definitions that we hear it at first, Illuminati, oh, that's scary. Occult, that's scary. But then you find out the meanings. Now, Luciferian, when it comes to the idea of the Illuminati or illumination, understanding that, Lucifer is a term meaning light carrier or a light bringer. And there's this weird dichotomy. People say, well, is Jesus Lucifer? Is Jesus the same thing as Lucifer? And it's like, as a title, sure, as a light bringer, but have you done any research on that title? People who would call themselves Luciferians. To me, when I break it down, I shared this in my song and freaked a lot of people out, that I believe, we are the true light bringers. We are carrying light, which is knowledge. You've talked about this. Kabbalah talks about this, that light and understanding is true and right knowledge. And so to be a true Luciferian is a true carrier and conduit of the light.
And I think that's a really interesting thing that you bring up, because it's so important that we hear each other out about about their own traditions, because we have to realize that if it's alive, that means God's light is inside it. So that means that person who's talking to you, God's in there. There's the light of the Spirit, that there's the Spirit of everlasting life exists within them, which is divine. And so there's some kind of sincerity and truth in their heart, no matter what. And so you got to tune into that. And sometimes there's wounding, like with what we call satanic, which is not the same as Luciferian, like you're saying.
Yeah.
So when we look at satanic, the Church of Satan is a parody of Christianity. It's a middle finger to Christianity. It's not its own real religion, and and whenever something is being parodied, it's because of a wounding. So when we look at Satanism, we're literally looking at people who have been experienced some kind of wound, directly or indirectly, from Christianity, and have like chosen to polarize in that way. So Satanism is not the same thing as Luciferianism, like you're saying. So here's, in my understanding and my research and education, Lucifer refers to the divine origin of the brother of Jesus in the pre-existence. So there's like this notion of before the world was created, Jesus was already like a royal spirit with like a great destiny, and that's why he was such an important role in this planet, and in the people of this planet. And his brother was Lucifer, who was a radiant being of great power and great wisdom and great evolutionary status, and he and the Christ. So Lucifer and the Christ, which is the light bringer, and then the present moment act decision. So what's special about Christ, and also interesting about Christ, the word implies the decision. So to Christ is crystallize, and it implies the choice from the individual to be christened or Christed, or anointed, like that word means. And then Lucifer is that this is the nature of that being to radiate light. So Christ and Lucifer archetypally symbolize the original nature for how humanity could have manifested. But in the pre-existence, there was a decision, like an election, and it was who will be the ruler of this very special planet, high investment planet with a lot of potent divine energy directed into it, a lot of possibility in this planet that will affect a lot of other planets and a lot of other star systems. And so Lucifer and Christ, so you look at it like a metaphor. Here's the metaphor. The metaphor is Lucifer and Christ campaigned for this planet, and Christ won the election. And so we look at what was the difference in the campaigns. Lucifer as the light bringer traditionally is the difference between Lucifer and Christ is that Christ won the election, which means this is a free will planet. It's a free will zone. We have to choose Christ. We get to choose. Whereas if this had been Lucifer's planet, to begin with, we would have already chosen, and we wouldn't have gone through all these ages of war and drama and trauma to choose a peaceful planet. And so there's a certain kind of thing that will happen in the second coming where even, and so here's an interesting thing, even Lucifer who fell, okay, so Jesus wins the election, Lucifer falls and initiates this other part of the plan. Now that Christ is the president of this planet, Lucifer has a different thing because he's no longer competing for president role, to use sort of like mythology and modern language or whatever. And so Lucifer then had a new role. And what his role is an area where a lot of people disagree. Some people think he's here to wake people up. Some people think he's here to scare people. Some people think he's here to lead people into darkness. But the idea is that even in the big picture, all things are from one source. All things will return to that one source. Even Satan himself will be redeemed in the end. So the idea that I work with is like this notion that there's always hope, even for the darkest of the dark. So Luciferians, people who identify as Luciferians, are really part of a very mystical, very peaceful, very idealistic and altruistic community of people who see Lucifer as the angel that he actually is, and sees this message of light bringing. Venus is the morning star. Lucifer is the morning star. The morning star is the signal that dawn is coming. So the Luciferian movement is, as a manifestation, is said to symbolize the second coming imminent.
Yeah.
So the return of the Christ,
Almost
the
like the
reappearance
John
of
the
the Christ.
Baptist, right? That was to be before the Christ. That's interesting. I wonder if there's a connection there.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's really interesting. I hadn't thought of that, but yeah,
me
definitely
neither.
interesting consideration.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man, so with all that being said, and trust me, I love it. I'll just right up my alley. It scares a lot of people, just because it's terms. But there's a
Right.
a way, in the awakening, you have to address your fears and
Yes.
understand that you've been taught wrong. And all of us, right? In our
Right.
religion, in our tradition, in our fears, and a lot of us don't even know, because a lot of these terms that we've believed, they're not even in the scriptures. Like, I'm talking about for the Christian who believes things that it's just through tradition,
Right.
but it's not biblical at all. So when you go back to
Right.
approach these terms in the Bible, you find out that, when these terms were used, they weren't talking about what we've been told, and that there's so many with Satan and Lucifer in mind. I cover that in my book, and it's huge. You find out these, I don't know, we just believe certain things, and they're not historic, they're not biblical at all.
Well, one thing that I think is that comes up that's so clear around exactly what you're talking about is the fact that the manifestation of the New Testament, the manifestation of the Messiah, of the Christ child, he came to fulfill the old law and therefore establish a new age. Side note, Jesus is the original New Ager. Okay. So we got to lay off our smack talk on the New Age movement. We got to reel it back in, because they're our cousins. They're the Christian ideological cousins, of the same lineage. And so that's one thing. Another thing is this notion of where we actually are in history. God didn't change. God's there. We're changing. We're learning. We're changing. God's the same yesterday, today, and forever, right? And so our role is to learn from God and to tune in to God and then interpret based on our existing world. Look, the whole point of Jesus for Christians was that he was supposed to fulfill and transcend the old law. Can I get an amen? Okay. So let's talk about why we hate the gays so much, when that was mentioned one time in the entire Bible, in the Old Testament, never mentioned by Christ, never included in the New Testament, and even contradictory to the teachings of Christ, which are about acceptance, mercy, and love.
Yeah. He'd be hanging out with them for sure.
Yeah,
he is.
totally.
He is. I'll say that. I'm from Alabama, man, and it's been a journey these last couple years for me, honestly, going deeper and deeper into my spirituality, and then just kind of like through synchronicity having like a lot of LGBT people on my podcast, and I didn't know it. Like, and I've gotten the chance to talk. Even in the comment section, there's people here. Donald Guffey Jr., who he's saying, he loves both of us. He's into your work. He's like, why y'all didn't tell me you guys were talking? Had him on. I recently had Jennifer Knapp on. She was the big Christian singer, Christian rock, pop music, and came out as LGBT, and they crucified her, and she still has her faith. And for me, it's been a journey recently, and a lot of people are afraid of that journey. I've met some really cool people, and I've had to come to changed my faith and my belief. Because down here in the Bible Belt, like there's some hateful people when it comes to who gets accepted and who isn't. So for me, it was a huge awakening there, and even as of recently going into the scriptures with it, to understand that, man, this what we thought it was talking about concerning a lot of this same-sex attraction was not talking about that at all. When we read these verses, it meant something totally different. And so you really have to be a Berean, somebody who's willing to ask the hard questions and break the scriptures down. And it's been super enlightening for me to share this information and to have my own revelation on this stuff. You know what I'm saying? So the church is waking up. They have to. If not, they're going to get left behind. The raptures came. Right. You've been left behind if you don't awaken to this, because it is about acceptance. It is about love. And Jesus was with the people who were marginalized, the people that the church gave up on, the Pharisees gave up on. Here comes Jesus. Hey, hold on. Your best days are ahead of you. I'm here with you. The drunkards, the prostitutes, the rejects, the tax collectors, who we all hate. Even to this day, there's a hatred for some of you guys for tax collectors. But yeah, man, that's who Christ is, and he's changing the game to this day, 2,000 years later, man.
Totally. I think one of the things that I'm so grateful for, to be raised in the tradition that I was raised in. And the main thing with the Mormon community and culture is that the founder of that movement was a truth seeker. He went out and he was like, look, the Bible says I can go talk to God. I'm going to go talk to God right now. And he went and asked his own questions directly of God, and God spoke right back to him. And that's what you can do. That's what I can do. That's what everyone on this call can do. You have to go, and there is like a metaphysical equation. You got to be sincere.
Yeah.
You got to have an actual open heart, and you got to be humble. And you have to say, look, I believe that someone can hear me, and that this someone is a divine, benevolent, higher force, and that there's something that can happen from that I can't even go anywhere. I can't even touch. My power can't come anywhere near. And then just being in that space in your heart creates the metaphysical opportunity for you to have a communication.
Yep. And that's what you teach in your books, right?
Absolutely.
That's the gateway, though, right? Into these meditations, into mindfulness, is knowing that, hey, already I don't have to reestablish this. I'm loved. There is a umbilical cord, a river of love that is coming from God, whatever we want to call it. So when I step into these meditations, when I step into get all my thoughts out, boom, there's that love. There's that peace. There's that acceptance. The world's rejected me. My family has rejected me. My boss has rejected me. I'm loved. I am the light of Christ. So stepping into that gateway, because there's a lot of talks about gateways, how you enter in. And Jesus says, I am the gate that you enter in. And this gate is that revelation of what he brought, that love, acceptance. I'm going to the rejects. I'm going to the prostitutes. I'm going to the drug addicts, man, because because they're accepted as well. So that's the basis of all of this stuff that you're teaching, right? The acceptance and love. And you can feel it, man, when you go into these meditations, when you are mindful and you think about it and you get everything else out of your mind and focused on this one thing. It's something we have in common for sure.
Yeah, I love that. I love your work. I love your approach to it too. The thing that I see is all of the different world traditions describe humanity as having this dual nature. We have a divine nature and a material nature. Yeah. We have a spiritual nature and a physical nature. We have a spirit and a body, is how we kind of say it, but we all know it's not a hand in a glove. Yeah. We all know it's much more complex dynamically than that. But what I think is really interesting is this notion that we have a higher nature and a lower nature. The lower nature has qualities, the higher nature has qualities, and all the traditions say this. In my book, Meditations on Christ, which is my Bible-based book, and I do have other books, but this is the one that specifically speaks to traditional Christianity. My intention with this one was to be 100% compatible with traditional traditional Christianity. In my personal practice, I'm an explorer, I'm a seeker. This book is really, it's for explorers and seekers, but it is also 100% compatible with traditional Christianity. So there's no new like side ideas introduced.
Yeah.
This is just emphasizing. It's emphasizing the teachings of Christ, specifically through the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians.
Mm-hmm.
And so the purpose is to look, the fruit of the Spirit and the result of the flesh, that is the higher nature and the lower nature.
Yep.
So the Spirit and the flesh are the two aspects of the nature. That's the way the Bible describes it. And so we start to develop the ability to discern our own inner nature. We have a lot of different thoughts going through our minds, and they all land on that spectrum somewhere between our higher and lower nature, which could also be said as truth and untruth. And of course, it's not a left and right two-dimensional thing. It's multifaceted. It's complex. It's designed to get you working, get you thinking, get your heart moving, get your nervous system active. This whole life is designed to put you through something. And so the more we can be available to be put through stuff and still manifest the Spirit of, truth, love, generosity, kindness, self-control, those are the fruit of the Spirit, which is the content that you cultivate in the meditations of Christ, on Christ. That book, that purpose is the fruit of the Spirit. One person was like, it should be called Meditations on the Fruit of the Spirit because it's not about Jesus. And I was like, it says Christ, not Jesus. Christ, everyone knows Christ was never his last name, guys. Yeah. That was a title. It was like being called the Dalai Lama. It's a title it's an activation. It's the Buddha. The Buddha was not the Buddha's name.
Yeah.
His name was Siddhartha Gautama. He had a name. He became the Buddha.
Some would say he was the Christ for those people. He was the Messiah figure, right? The light.
Right.
Just
and
like
what's
Moses
interesting
was that in his time. He was a Messiah figure.
Absolutely.
Joshua.
And we needed that. What we call that in comparative religious studies, we call it the doctrine of avatars. And it's the fact that there are people who incarnate divine qualities, and every tradition has it. In Christianity, we have the Christ, and then we have a number of other saints and prophets.
Yeah.
And in Hinduism, there's the Krishna and all the other saints and sages, et cetera, and so on. All the different traditions have the doctrine of avatars. Here's one really interesting thing. You probably have been exposed to this concept. A lot of people haven't. Each of those traditions also in the doctrine of avatars say that one more is coming. And they all say one more is coming. And they all also say that when that one more comes, the entire world is going to recognize
That's
that
the Maitreya,
one
man.
more. It's Maitreya,
Maitreya. The Lord Maitreya speaks, for sure.
Yeah. So in the Buddhist tradition, we say the Maitreya Buddha, the final Buddha. In Christianity, we say the second coming. In Hindu, the second coming of Christ, of course.
Yeah.
In Judaism, the first Messiah never even, they're still waiting on that guy. And then, the Hindu tradition, there's the Kalki avatar and so on. We could say
all of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Exactly. So that's what I think is really interesting. And so take that idea of the idea that 1,000 years of peace is prophesied by every prophet of all the traditions, and that there are certain conditions that 1,000 years of peace would be initiated by, that all kinds of drama would happen right before it, and that one incarnation, one person, one consciousness would flip the switch. And so we start to look at it, and we also look at the principle that we're family. Okay, you're my brother. We also look at the principle that there's only one of us here. You're just a reflection of me. Okay, stay with me. And now we look at the fact that we're in a free will planet. Okay, there's only one of us. We're in a free will planet, and all of our ancestors are saying that there's a prophecy coming, and that one consciousness will manifest and change it. So what I start to see with the sort of multidimensional lens with that is that it's us. It's not just me that I'm going to be the Messiah. It's you and me.
Yeah.
And everyone listening because there's really only one of us. We're reflections of each other. And because this is a free will universe, enough of us just have to choose to be so
Yeah.
bold as to say, maybe I can do something bigger than my own life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what I believe the second coming of Christ is. I think there's a lot of people who are akin to that idea that Christ is, he's talking about coming back to sit on the temple and the throne of God. But then he also goes on to tell you that the throne of God is your heart. And he's like, I don't need a building made with brick and mortar. I come back to dwell upon the seat of your heart. And so this Christ consciousness idea is the fact that you're the only Christ, you're the only Bible that many people will ever see or read, right? And so when he illuminates your life, when you're illuminated with the light and love of Christ, you become him on earth. He said, where 2 or 3 are gathered, there I am in the midst. So as you guys are awakened to the idea that I am there in your midst, you are that. So the fact that he's already, we're not waiting for a return of Christ, but that he's already come back. And so let us tap into this consciousness. Let us communicate. Let us explore the depths of this consciousness and its love. And it's not just for you. It is transferable. Other people can get in on this and they can experience it through the mindfulness, through the meditation, through the spirituality. Those are great entryways in, through showing someone love when they're at rock bottom, when they've explored everything else but this, these kind of, everybody has their own entryway into this love and light. And to against such, there is no law of love. Right. Jesus goes on to tell us that all of the law and all of the prophets and everything that we've read up until this point has been fulfilled through the royal law of love, loving God and loving your neighbor and loving yourself, really. Mm-hmm. And it all comes into play through Christ consciousness.
Yeah, and I feel like the purpose of as we understand these things and as we experience them in our own way, it's like, you said it is transferable. What does that transference look like for you? I mean, you're doing direct trainings, you're creating music. You're obviously a very prolific person. For me, I write books. I'm a filmmaker. I've got a couple different film projects coming out, which I'm excited about. I'm going to also be on a reality show next year that I can't say what network it's on yet, but but we'll talk. It's going to be a big one. And then this book was designed for people to act as a bridge between where you and I are discussing. Because look, there are going to be specifics to your experience that are going to be different than specifics to my experience. But I have a feeling that you and I can be very comfortable with that. And not a lot of people can. So this was intended to act as a script. When you read a book, you can tell who's read what books because you start to hear little clues. You start to hear, And so this book all my books are scripts, but this one acts as a script to bridge some of the traditional languaging with some of the newer ideas to help not reinterpret words or change doctrines necessarily, but to help remind ourselves of the original doctrine, to recalibrate as purely as possible to the cleanest, realist truth within it, cultivate our own psychic abilities / prophetic abilities / discernment of the spirit / gifts of the spirit, and to be able to use them. We can't train a generation to be ready for everything, but we can train them to be ready for anything.
That's good. That's real good. And those are universal. And, I quote this all the time just because it's so powerful and you've kind of mentioned some similar things, but listening to Billy Graham and when I was going through my awakening and being more inclusive and just having supernatural encounters and stuff, I ran into an interview he did with Robert Schuller from the Crystal Cathedral. And he starts talking about how that there are people all over the world who are a part of the body of Christ. Because they're asking him about this Christian end time revival. Are we going to see all these souls come into the church? In the church, he said, no, I don't think we're going to see it. He said, but we will see these people who are a part of the Buddhist tradition, the Muslim tradition, Hindu. He says there are people who may have not even ever heard the name Jesus. They don't know nothing about it, but they are already a part of the body of Christ. And when I heard Billy Graham say that,
Billy Graham said that?
the greatest evangelist of our day, at the end of his life, right? He's done it all. He's won the souls. He's preached the gospel. He's did his thing. And then he says this. I'm like, what? Something activated in me, man. Because like everything that I was seeking, everything that I knew, you just needed that confirmation. And so to hear him say that, man, really changed a lot of things for me. Now I'm able to see Christ in everything and everyone. I'm able to look at every circumstance and every situation and see that light that exists, that you were talking about, that eternal essence that is within every sentient being, every idea, every philosophy. It's in there somewhere. I just got to find it, And so
and
that
I think
just
it's the same as, I think it's the same as that river of love you were talking about. That umbilical cord, that divine umbilical cord that each of us has. In my book, I say that as children of God, we are portals to the divine.
Yeah.
So it's like what you said, we're a river, we have an umbilical cord, we're portals, our heart is a portal to God. Yeah. And it's an infinite opening, my enthusiasm. And and the kingdom of heaven is within. Yeah. You need to go there. There's a portal. There's literally an interdimensional portal inside you. You can go there, and meditation is the key. I do believe that there is a new world religion manifesting right now, and I believe it's a new way of looking at religion. I don't believe it's one new religion. I think it's a metaphysical reconciliation with all of the world traditions. Yeah. That's the premise of the book Modern Spirituality. And I believe that meditation is the thing that's going to unite all of the different traditions. When we're sitting in silence with our eyes closed, we can think about whatever God we want. We can talk to whoever that we need to talk to. And it's about the magnetic, heart-centered sincerity of it all. Yep. And holding that safe space like that. And I think that we are the generation that is going to manifest the second coming consciousness. I think it's happening right this second in the year of Revelation, aka 2020, perfect vision or whatever, I think it's all happening right now. I think we're doing it. And I think that we need to know that our best days are ahead of us, and that we are loved, and that we are in this together. And that when we do have depression and darkness, just the other day was the United Nations World Mental Health Day. When we are having those areas of depression, that's a demon. Okay. Moses coming to you and saying, look, you can get through this. Look, here's how you know whether it's a demon or not. Yeah. Is it creating negativity, heaviness, and fear, or is it creating positivity, light, and love?
Because people on the other side of that spectrum will say that Jesus came to them and told them that I'm about to blow this place up next week. You know what I'm saying?
That's a demon.
That's a demon, bro.
It's a demon, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. So, no, it was Jesus, man. He looked just like you, TruthSeekah.
No, you don't know Jesus because, no, he doesn't talk like that.
Yeah,
it's
I know,
not his
man.
thing. Totally.
So it goes back to Galatians, judging the fruit of the message.
Right.
Every tradition.
Absolutely.
And what you're talking about, people like taking a step forward, being more inclusive, and this new man that is evolving on the earth now. You can keep your religion. You can keep your tradition. You can keep Jesus. You can keep Moses. You can keep Melchizedek. Whatever it is, you can keep it. But you got to get rid of the disgusting dogmas and the judgments and the things that separate you and the things that, are you got to get rid of the things that Jesus got rid of, guys. Come on.
Yeah.
You got to get rid of that stuff. You have to become more Christ-like, more accepting, more loving. And, the other stuff, you like it, keep it. Then that's the beautiful thing, because with this comparative theology, comparative religion, in Christianity, I was taught to study other religions, but to see what makes us different, But in comparative theology, we study and we're like, oh, wow, y'all pay tithes, we pay tithes. You guys speak in tongues, we speak in tongues. You guys prophesy, you start finding all these similarities. Like, hold on, we're not so different after all. And so there's a lot of people who are just like me. I'm like studying it all, Native American spirituality, all of it, and taking the good things from it all. And let's just be honest, they got some bad, ridiculous stuff in all of these religions.
All of us do.
And let's get rid of that. Get rid of all of it. And this new religion of taking the best parts of all of it. In my music, I take the best parts of like styles and wordplay, and I combine them. With my religion, I want the beautiful stuff. You keep all the disgusting, judgmental stuff. Keep that to yourself, brother. I want the beauty in it, because if you can look hard enough, in every tradition. You've trained yourself to do that. Mindfulness helps you to do that. And there's many people, because of our work, because we're putting it in books, because we're putting it in music, that they're saying yes to this call too. And we're making disciples.
Yes.
We're making disciples. We're making people, helping people to be able to see.
It's discipline.
The light. Yes.
Disciple means entering into the discipline. In Kabbalah, they say there are two paths. One is the path of pain, and the other is the path of discipline. So you can either choose the path of Torah and mitzvot, which is technically the path of joy. The path of discipline is the path of joy. And the path of pain is the default path.
Yes.
We can choose. That's what disciple means. Guru means guide. Disciple means someone who's in the discipline.
Yeah.
So this is a time and an era where we're all gurus and we're all disciples.
Yeah. Learning from one another.
Yeah. And you know what? I do want to talk to you another time, to be continued, on plant medicine, because there's a lot of different techniques and modalities that we can use to help us see the world through that lens of Christ. And in my book, Modern Spirituality, I had one of those supernatural experiences. Jesus came to me in a shamanic indigenous ceremony in Costa Rica with ayahuasca plant medicine. And it was Jesus. So I think a lot of Christians will appreciate what that really was about, and what that means, and what we know of plant medicine, both traditionally and scientifically today, and how it can support everybody who's called to it. Not everything's for everybody. Yep.
I'm going back to Galatians. What's the fruit of it, man?
Yeah.
And what's the fruit of this plant journey? Like when I talk to you, like after you come back, like you're more in tune, you're more loving, you're like literally walking in the spirit. Like, come on, man. You have to judge all things according to its fruit. Jesus told us to judge. Like there's a righteous judgment, but he said, judge the fruit. Don't judge the person, the hurt individual.
Right.
Judge the fruit of what they're saying and what they're bringing. And if it lines up with the fruit of Galatians, there's an opposite to those fruits as well, which is called the fruit of the flesh, like you said. So it's like bitterness,
greed,
envy, gluttony, it's
violence,
fits of rage, which is the opposite of self-control. They're usually the opposite of the fruits of the spirit.
Right.
So you can really just look at a person or hang around a person long enough, and you'll see the types of fruits that they're walking in. And part of my awakening was to be able to see Muslims, to see Hindus walking in the fruits of the spirit. Now there was the whole thing to biblically, to walk in the fruits of the spirit means you got to be hanging out with the Holy Spirit. It's a spiritual path that if you do these things, if you're conscious, if you're connecting with God, you're going to exhibit these fruits. And to see other people outside of Christendom do it better than many of the Christians that we knew. Hey, I can't listen. You just got to look at the information for what it is, man. And that was a big part of my awakening, man, to be more inclusive.
And a lot of Christians too.
A lot of Christians, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
But that was an area of breakthrough for me too, to see people outside of my tradition walking in the spirit.
I would say the same thing for maybe those other religions having to include Christians now, right? The Muslim having to say, man, these Christians, like, they love God, like they truly are genuine. There's something different about them, or something similar, you know what I'm saying, about them. And so it's definitely for the Christian to say that about the other religions, but then the other religions and traditions to say, you know what, there's some beautiful things that Christ has brought, or Christianity brings to the table, and we need to explore those as well.
Absolutely.
So, man,
it's a relationship.
I don't know how much time you got. I know we booked an hour, but let me know when you got to go. I know you got stuff coming up. We can definitely let me know what you're looking like. You got to go.
I've got a couple more minutes, but I got another
great
obligation. But yeah, we could talk for hours. We could do an all-day one probably.
Yeah. So I just did my first 4-hour episode last week, and
wow, I'd rather do 4 1-hour episodes. Easier for my schedule.
For sure. We'll make it happen.
But no, I could do that. I have that. Yeah, I feel like
I love your work, dude. I've been listening to some of your meditations. I watched some of the different ones that you have on YouTube and stuff as well. But your new book is Modern Spirituality. Make sure everybody goes out and gets that, and they're fairly cheap too, so people can just go to the Amazon and get it. But definitely check out the Meditations on Christ. I think a lot of people listening to this show will definitely get some value out of that. But yeah, man. Anything that you wanna leave us with, man? Any type of modalities? Your favorite entry into meditation, combining breath work? Is it mindfulness meditation? I know you teach it all. So what are some of your favorite techniques and things?
I think the number one thing is recognizing that every person, you are already connected to the universe and to God, and that every modality and technique is about helping you experience that connection and remember that connection. And everyone's going to respond a little differently to everything.
Yeah.
So what I really recommend, really my first book, Practical Meditation for Beginners, it's 10 different techniques with a bunch of different variations on how to practice them, and that one is an audiobook too. So the other audiobooks haven't come out yet, but that first one is also an audiobook. I think the more we expose ourselves to all the different kinds of techniques to help us, and remember what it's really about.
Yeah.
It's not about creating wealth or manifesting the perfect blank. It's actually about recalibrating your connection to God. And so that's a miracle. There's magic, and then there's miracles. And one miracle is more powerful than all the magic in the world. So magic is when we try to manipulate something and control the outcome. A miracle is when we surrender trust to God. And then God makes an inner change where we start to, where we see the world differently.
Yeah. I'm going through that right now. There's levels to it. I'll say that we've always been going through that, but there's levels to it.
Yeah.
So for you, like, can meditation bring about like crazy mystical experiences? Similar, obviously it's not duplicating. Some people kind of tout, and I used to as well, that like there's states of meditation that are like I can enter into ayahuasca states or psilocybin states through meditation. I don't think you can. I think that they're all specific and they're unique unto themselves. But are there deep places that you can go in through breath work and meditation that are very similar levels of experiencing bliss of heaven or nirvana and things like that, and even meeting with Moses and Elijah and angelic beings and things like that? Have you experienced it? And that's something that other people can do as well?
Yes, absolutely. And I would say that the biggest thing is that it's not about the technique that you use. Everybody is really different. It's about breaking down your walls, your resistance to the heavens, and the fact that the heavens want to be open for you, and that they want to speak to you, and that there is a message for you, that your life has a purpose.
Yes.
You do have a backup team in the celestial dimension, and they want to be in contact with you, but because of the body, because of the material dimension, because of our experiences, because of vibration, we have limited access to them. So whatever you do to raise your vibration, to better hear your posse in the heavens, they're there. They're real. It's a real thing going on. You can call them a million different things, but the Holy Spirit, the one highest spirit that connects all things that we breathe in and breathe out, is a real thing. It's got real data for you, real info, real inspo for you, information and inspiration. And all these modalities are about reducing your resistance to it. So if you get one thing from this, it's take a deep breath in, and on the exhale, let relaxation come through every part of your body. Let go of all the tension, get soft, get relaxed, be receptive. And no matter what you're doing, more of your own higher nature, your own higher wisdom, the spiritual guidance will come through no matter what you're doing. If you just soften into it, allow yourself to be more receptive.
Good stuff. His website is bendeckermeditation.com. Go check out all of his work, his books, and all the beautiful stuff he's bringing to the table. Ben, thanks so much for hanging out with me, man. I want to do it again, man. Get with your people. Get with my people. Let's make it happen.
Definitely. Thank you, dude. So happy to be here, and so happy for the work you're doing in the world. It's really
thank
beautiful.
you so much, brother. Many blessings. We'll do it again.
Blessings. Thanks, brother.
Shalom, shalom.
See ya.
Peace. Ben Decker, ladies and gentlemen. Good stuff. Good stuff. Really enjoyed it. We're going to go to a quick commercial, and we'll be back for final thoughts. If you have any questions, post them in chat. I'm listening. Check out this commercial really quick. It's pretty cool.
Elementals are different. Elementals are really strange. I've seen elementals. I've had one-on-one experience with elementals. I don't know exactly what they are. All I know is what to call them. But I've had incidents where I have been in the company of elementals. They're spirit creatures, like fairies, and the Irish are very big on talking about the different fairies and the different magical little creatures. Leprechauns, I have seen gnomes and leprechauns, and fairies. These are what we call the elementals. They are legitimately life forms, but they don't live in the world you do. They live in a different kind of world, an elemental world. But we call them the elementals. It's quite a subject. Life outside of being a human. What is life like in the spirit world? And that's what you're talking about in your book.
I explore these concepts and more in my new book, Spirit Realm: Angels, Demons, Spirits, and the Sovereignty of God. Forward by Jordan Maxwell. Available now at TruthSeekah.com. Yes, go check out the book. It's available for audiobook for free download. If you click that link in the description, you can get my audiobook. I read it. It's 4.5 hours. I will read it to you for free. Check it out. If you want a physical copy, those are available too. I want to show y'all my new toy, man. I'm excited about this. We're definitely going to be using this for some sound bathing on our retreat coming up. But this is a crystal pyramid. I seen a friend of mine. I think he's going to be on the show Thursday. Francesco. He's going to be on the show, and it's going to be good. But I seen him using one of these, and he does a lot of energy healing, like Reiki and stuff like that. And he'll go live and he'll do these energy attunements. And I seen him use this for the first time I've ever seen one. And I was like, oh, I got to get one. But shout out to Francesco. I'm going to have him on the show Thursday, I believe. But I love watching his energy attunements. It's like ASMR for me to see him do the sound bathing, chanting, sending energy, pushing and pulling, like releasing trauma and stuff like that when he goes live on Facebook and stuff. And so I love it. Anybody working with energy, it just pulls me in and I can feel it. I love it. But I heard him use this and I fell in love with it. So I'm going to see if I can play it here. And I just got it yesterday, and so maybe you guys can hear it, but it's beautiful. So check it out. This is a crystal pyramid. Can you hear it? Listen. Take that, devil. We're opening portals. We're calling in the angels. Clearing the energy. Can y'all hear that? Give me a thumbs up in the chat. Beautiful. Sound bathing. Cleansing your aura. I believe this is when I did the recording on this to try to check out what it is, it seems like it's G and C going back and forth a little bit of both of those notes. So yes, I love it. Yeah, we'll be using some of this. We'll be using some singing bowls and stuff as well on the Reset Refresh New retreat coming up in December. Christy's posted in chat. She says, wow, can't wait to see that in person. Christy says, sounds like angels. Wow. Yeah, just think if we have the other, some of the other resonances playing as well with it, it's going to sound beautiful. So if you was to focus in on that tone, man, it's definitely cleansing and clearing. I love it. So yeah, that's what excited about that. That's a new toy I just got in. Might have to get some more. My wife has a singing bowl and some other things too. So yeah, anybody have any questions, any comments, man? I'm watching the chat now. I got a few minutes to hang out with you guys. This is kind of an early talk, but really enjoyed it. Have a lot in common. The Christ consciousness, the meditation, the mindfulness, and I hope you guys get that deep down within you. I will say, if I want shout out to Claymore, if you're listening, you did not send me your address, and I know you usually listen. You didn't send me your address, so I can send you this book here that you won on the last live stream. Chrissy says, is there any men tickets left on the retreat? I know someone who wants to go. Yeah, we have 5 men seats left, 5 men seats and 2 female seats. So yeah, we do have a couple more, and you can get those tickets at TruthSeekah.com. That's there. Clint says, that's the vibe and sound I love and use to cleanse me or to get the rest. Amen. Triplet says, is that what the Divine Trinity sounds like? Yeah. Heck yeah. 432 is 432 the best healing frequency? Which one is the best? I think that's subjective, but yeah, you definitely, I'd say you can't go wrong with 432 and 528, but 432 for sure. I mean, there's apps that will tune your favorite songs into 432. You can get apps on your phone, so like if you listen to my music, it will automatically tune it. I will say, people always ask me about my music, is it tuned to 432? And I tell them no, because once a beat is already created and you change the frequency of the tune to it, for some reason, a lot of the high-pitched ticks and stuff that are in hip-hop music, when you retune those, they sound horrible. Even though they're in 432, the tone, the pitch of them and the tone, it just sounds bad. So retuning hip hop is kind of hard, but you can retune even like a depressing song. I've heard like Stained, the band Stained songs, which are usually depressing, at least they're older stuff anyway. And I've heard that retuned to 432 where they sound more uplifting when you retune them. I know that the band Tool, and I may lose monetization on this video if I play this, but let me change some of this stuff to 432 and see if you can tell. Let's see here. We'll just do Schism. I'll just go into a little bit.
I know the pieces fit 'cause I watched them fall away.
That one seems a little bit harder to hear. Probably lose monetization playing these songs, though. Just how it is. I feel like there's certain songs where you can feel it more for sure. Here's H 432. Yeah, this is higher. You can tell.
Showing up is a mirror. Oh, singing songs is a stain. Looking to turn my pistol wide. Level surely motivated. Killing me just the same. Now, stick behind me hisses. My damage could have been. My blood before me begs me. Open up my heart again.
Yeah, so that's just an example. If you know the original, if not, you don't know the change in it. But Deb says even tuning forks are awesome. Yeah. Next says I suggest getting in touch with Steve Grant and Adam Warlock for future. I've had Steve Grant on. Me and Steve Grant did a really cool talk several months ago. So if you haven't heard that episode, make sure you go back into the archives. Steve Grant's a good dude. Love where he's headed spiritually. It's so funny because I've always talked about like Steve Grant, Diesel, the Get Big guys. There's a natural evolution that you see a lot of people take with this awakening thing where you step into, you wake up. Most of us got introduced years ago. I'd say not so much anymore. We get introduced to this kind of stuff through Alex Jones, right? This maybe conspiracy. A lot of people, get into it through conspiracies and stuff. So you wake up and it's a government thing. You learn about the truth in the government and the Illuminati and all this kind of stuff. And you get on this anti-New World Order thing, anti-Illuminati. You get into Steve Grant, where the guys are wearing the V for Vendetta mask and stuff like that, and it was very much like overthrow the government kind of stuff. But then these guys, they really did the work in the streets. Like they're hosting rallies and marches and stuff like that, marching against the amendments and trying to vote people out of the office to bring about change. But eventually I did that. I put out an album called The Fall of Babylon. It was very much government oriented, pointing at Bush at the time when I was into that. Someone else says flat earth. Yeah, I think flat earth is something you get into as well. But you found out that, listen, these marches ain't doing nothing. Like voting ain't doing nothing. Like all of this stuff that you're trying to do to change the world in a march or in a vote, you find out that it doesn't work. And so for me, I went through that thing, and I was just started doing the work on myself, working on myself, and then having influence and changing people one at a time or through my music or whatever. And so where with something external about changing the government and getting certain people out of office or something like that, it moves to this more of a spiritual approach to changing myself spiritually, and then knowing that my music and then my art and then my lectures, like everything that I do, my podcast is going to affect people, and I'm going to be changing the world that way. And I say that with the likes of Steve Grant because I've seen him take a very similar approach. His stuff was more, marching, and they if anybody did it, they did it for sure. Like, gathering people all over the world, man, to march and to get about this movement. And they found out that I think it didn't really work. It's a cool movement, cool idea, but as far as the change that they're seeing in legislation and all this stuff that they're shooting for, it didn't work. So I think the next phase of that evolution, conscious evolution, is spirituality, is tapping into taking care of yourself. I've seen it, Vinny did it, Diesel did it, Steve did it. Everyone does it, especially those who start out in the conspiracy arena. You move to the spiritual part. It's just a natural part of the process. So shout out to those guys. And I say that to say I really love what Steve Grant's doing right now and focusing on the body, focusing on health, spirituality, finances, you know what I'm saying? Helping people to tap into all of that stuff. Wattlebot says, what exactly is Christian mysticism? I think it depends on who you ask, man. I think that the mystical experience for me is my Christian experience is a mystical experience, right? So I'd call myself a Christian mystic, one who has a mystical union with Christ. And you could stop there, I guess, as a Christian, but then we have a mystical union not only with Christ, but the angels, with the demons, with all sentient beings, with different types of angels, different types of messengers, elemental beings, elemental spirits. And so all of this together is very much a mystical experience. So for that to be the doorway for a Christian mystic would be one who is entering in through that stuff through the teachings or being a devotee of Jesus Christ, right? Of understanding what he taught. And that was my gateway into mysticism, I would say. True mysticism, really, because those dudes were very mystical. When we go back and read the Bible, we read about like these dudes who were leaving their body. They were receiving dreams and visions in the middle of the night that were things that they were to do the next day. And just being on this road, which we would call synchronicity, of things lining up what you need to do to step into and embrace your destiny. So very interesting to read the scriptures and see some of the things that they were going through and doing, speaking in tongues, like, all kinds of out of this world stuff. I mean, I wrote about a lot of it in my book, meeting with the dead, believing in ghosts and reincarnation. And a lot of these things that we were told are not Christian or are not biblical, or the Bible is full of it, and not in a condemning way, but in a way that it kind of vouched for a lot of that stuff. So I would say that for me, my Christianity or my practice is a very mystical practice, and there's no way you can get away from that. It is, the Bible talks about the mystery of Christ in us is a mystery, and it's exploring that mystery as well. And walking in the Spirit, meditation, prayer, those things are very essential to my experience. And Top of Tops is kind of like Kabbalism. Somewhat. I really find that Kabbalism is like explaining the in fine detail. I always talk about holding up a magnifying glass to some of these things, that you can just keep going deeper and deeper and deeper into it. So for me, on first observation, like the Kabbalah, the Zohar, the Kabbalistic tradition is like a holding up that magnifying glass to the sanctification process, which is like this process that it's a biblical term that you go through this process of being made into the image of Christ, and going is like this process of evolution. It's the process of, becoming sanctified, becoming a saint. And it's the process of that you go through, and levels and tests and trials and all of those things. So it's really just kind of like holding that magnifying glass up to and just going deeper and deeper into it, of the inner workings of that, from my experience, for what I see. Savannah says, do you believe in reincarnation? Because the Bible says a person dies once and then judgment. I don't know if I believe in reincarnation, but I'll say that there is grounds that the early church believed in reincarnation, right? Because I talk about all this in my book. If you guys have not had a chance to pick it up, like I said, you can get the audiobook, or you can get a physical copy as well at TruthSeekah.com. But the early church believed, when they were talking about Jesus, everybody's asking, who is he? Who is Jesus? And some would say that he was Elijah. Some would say that he was Moses that had come back. Same thing with John the Baptist. People were speculating who John the Baptist was, because there's prophecies in the Old Testament that Elijah would come back. And Elijah, the spirit of Elijah. And so after John the Baptist had come and gone, Jesus told him that John the Baptist was Elisha. And so there's this notion of reincarnation, that he would come back. Now, once a person dies, then the judgment comes. I believe that earth and this life is a place of sortation, of where you're gonna what roles and things that you're gonna do on the other side. And so Christians would kind of like just hold that in the spectrum of a heaven and hell, right? Very shallow minded, very like, hey, if you're a good person, you go to heaven. If you're a bad person, you go to hell. But a little bit more intricate about in the afterlife, on the other side, which is real life, which is eternity. This life is a vapor. We only get so many years here, 100 if you're super lucky, 70, 60, where it seems like we're living less and less. Some people, less fortunate or whatever, die early. So like, to think that this is our final form or whatever, earth is this training ground to see where the sortation process of what you're going to do on the other side. If you put here to learn love, to pass these tests in this so-called universal mystery school that we're all inducted in, that we all choose to come here, and the lesson is to learn love, to graduate, so that when you wake up on the other side, the real you, the avatar you that is in heaven right now, when you snap out of this dream and then you suddenly remember you're back in this consciousness that you were before you came here, you're gonna, hey, you passed, you didn't pass, and that test seemed like it was a lifetime. So for me, it's learning love, responding with love, evolving. So again, these roles that you do on the other side of the grave, it was talked about the great cloud of witnesses in the Bible, that the Bible says that we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, and it talks about those who have come before us, who are looking down upon us and cheering us on and guiding us and helping us. And then the scripture goes on to say that some of those people mentioned there, Jesus was communicating with them from beyond the grave. Now, I think that there's a level of ascension where they end up becoming ascended masters, or they're able to teach ancestral, your lineage or whatever the case is. But Jesus was being taught by Moses and Elijah. And so we got to see that whenever Peter, James, and John went to the Mount of Transfiguration and seen what Jesus would do when he would pray. He literally received this light body and his clothes turned white. He began to shine. The clouds begin to communicate with him through the cloud. And Peter, James, and John got to see that. And as far as I'm concerned, that happened every time he went in to pray for hours on end. He was definitely a man that was given over to devotion and prayer. I believe that he was meditating and he was communing with the ancestors. And so I repeat that. I say that a lot. I really believe that. I want you to get it. I want you to explore it. You understand that other traditions, Eastern philosophies have been practicing this since the beginning. And I think that Christianity has too. We've just lost it. This isn't something new. We're not stepping into the next stage and doing something new. This is very ancient. This is very old. And we need to return to the ancient path, as the scripture says. So there's so much stuff that has been lost in Christianity that you guys have given over to the New Age, have given over to the witches, have given over to whoever, through Western Christianity. That's become a joke, honestly, and something that people loathe and don't want anything to do with. They would rather go in by another means through Hinduism or any type of shamanic practice, but not knowing that Christianity in its true essence is a shamanic practice. It is connecting with nature. It is that all of creation, that we have this song and dance, this relationship, that all of creation's waiting for you to wake up, and they're groaning for you, and there's angels and there's beings and there's entities on every level that are at not your disposal, but they're here to guide you and to lead you. And some of us have communed, some of us have seen those entities on different levels and different places in our lives, and it has changed us. We've had just one experience, but I think that if you've had that one experience, it should be something that allows you to explore it a little bit deeper and to have more, because a lot of these experiences are repeatable. You just have to set aside the time to go in and do it. The stargazing and stuff that we do, I think anybody can do it. I've seen things that changed my life, ruined me, honestly, that anybody could see. But you have to want to see it. You have to go out there and look. And the Bible says that for those who seek, that they will be shown, that those who knock, the door will be open to them. So that's something that you can explore. Chris Garner says that these traditions were both lost and taken from us, for sure, because it's empowering. You're not going to come to me for answers when you can go directly to God yourself. And that's what the church did. Many forms of religion do and did, but they continue to do. You have to go to the leaders, you have to go to the elders to get your answers, to interpret the Bible. You're too stupid to read and interpret the Bible. And in many of the cases, these people, they literally were illiterate. So they couldn't, even if they wanted to. So we had to go to these people and ask them what the Bible said. And then you have to just trust that they were a clean and clear conduit for God's light and love, and would tell you the truth without it being tainted. And we've seen what that's birthed, how many different denominations and belief systems and everything that we're dealing with today because of that. And that's still taking place and still going on. But I think that podcasts like these and books and music and everything that we're bringing is definitely helping, not just me, but countless other people out there like me, and who are for the greater good, and who are for love, and they do serve justice, and they serve the law of one, which is the law of love. There's no greater love other than that. So hope that answers your question a little bit about the mysticism and the what do you call it? Reincarnation. So they allow you to explore, right? I mean, just even hearing that, like, what does that do for you? Like, did you know that was a thing? Like, yeah, but, you know what I'm saying? That's like, yeah, but you're not supposed to. Yeah, but you're not supposed to seek it. I mean, there's a lot of Christians who would say you're not supposed to seek after this stuff. They were all random. Everything was random. They think that every spiritual experience in the Bible was random. They believe that, people were just walking down the road. And just like, because Paul, his experience was random for sure. It wasn't random, but I don't think he was seeking it. But at the same time, he was just like in the right place at the right time in his life, that God was preparing him to do the work that he did. So he's on his, riding a horse or donkey, and he gets knocked off and he's blinded by the light of Christ. He sees the glory and light of Christ and it blinds him. And, he has a supernatural experience that changed his life. A lot of people have had that, but a lot of it is about seeking. Like the early church believed in the trance state. It's totally scriptural. They use that word in the King James, that they were in a trance on the Lord's Day. Guess what happens when, evangelical Christians sit in church and they have their eyes closed and their hands raised and they sing a song for 45 minutes straight? Guess what happens to you? You're in a trance on the Lord's Day. And so what is happening when you're in that trance? There's people who report healings. There's people who report seeing visions about their life, about like their past traumas and sins are being forgiven and cleared up, like just by having their eyes closed, going in, communing with God in a trance on the Lord's Day. They just got their hands up and their eyes closed, and they're in another realm. They are going within. They are communing with Jesus. They are being shown visions, and then you can explore that deeper. Don't just be on the trance on the Lord's Day. There's another scripture that talks about the first day of the week that they all got together and were seeking, and they would continually do this stuff by themselves. It's what Jesus really championed. Do this stuff by yourself, but also bring people with you. 2 or 3 are gathered. Get 2 or 3 people who really want this, and y'all go after it together. And nothing shall by any means be impossible to you. Because you believe it, I'm going to give it to you. And not just you, but you got other people with you that are like you, or that can help believe for other things, or can help you in areas that you're stumbling or falling. Listen, man, upon this rock I'll build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. This understanding of the revelation of who Christ is, and that it is a mystical adventure. It is not about just going to church and dotting the I's and crossing the T's. It's really about this engaging heaven. Jesus didn't come so that when you die, you get to go to heaven and not go to hell, as if hell was your default anyway. But Jesus came to get heaven into you now. And you can experience heaven and experience bliss on earth now. Through your belief, through your faith, but through engaging that faith. That's what we're doing. I hope I'm stirring you up. I hope that you take me at my word. I hope that you go away and you try some of this stuff. I hope that you book a session with someone. I hope that you go to a retreat. I hope that you do a meditation. Like, I'm giving you all of the tools, and everything's there for you. And there's so much, because there's different strokes for different folks. Some people like different things. Some people engage different ways. Some people, their minds are too running too fast to take time to meditate. They just think that they can, but they can listen to a song, they can listen to an audiobook. Maybe they can't read my book, but they can listen to the audiobook. And there's things that you hear that are testimonies, where I'm testifying about experiences that I've had. Just like when you read the Bible, you're reading about experiences that people had. right? And there's other works, even outside of the Bible, that are testifying of these experiences. And, you know, God is not a respecter of persons to think that only some people get this, or they were just lucky to be walking around and fell into a trance, or walking around and fell into a vision. No. If you seek, the door will be open to you. You have to seek. What does that mean? Well, you got to meditate. Go in with the love and light of Christ. Ask him to show you what you need for today. Give me this day my daily bread. Go in through a prayer. Go in through meditation. And get what you need for today. Chris says, kind of like Bill Hicks said, it's about the ride. Just put on your seatbelt. That's it. Put your seatbelt on, because it's going to get bumpy. Make sure your headlights are on, because it's going to get dark. You know, you're going to go through the rain. You're going to drive through the storm. We're going, man, cross country. Let's do it. Cross dimensions, through the portals, man. Portals to the paranormal. Let's get it in. So if anybody else has any more questions, let me know. If not, I'm going to go ahead and get off here in a moment. But yeah, I really enjoyed this talk. This is what we do, man. We do the good work. I want to talk about, my program coming up, the Path of the Healer. It starts Sunday night. So if you're listening to this, it starts October the 18th. And it goes for 8 weeks. It's everything that I have together. It's teaching you how to be a counselor, to be a healer, to step into your own healing business, if you will, to be able to take clients and do consultations and do calls and then do intuitive healing sessions, and what that looks like internally in the mind to even fathom that, to be able to tap into energy. Then once you tap into it and you're aware of it, how do you move it? How do you send it? How do you get bad energy off of people? You know what I'm saying? So how can someone get healed just through a conversation with you? Like, what's going on? So I'm giving you the depths of that, explaining it, training you in it, and then sending you out to be able to do it yourself, to be able to get leads, to be able to get in front of people, whether that's a website, whether that's a podcast, whether that's a blog, going live on Facebook, going live on YouTube. We're trying to discuss it all. So it's taken me about 2 years to get this material ready, and we're launching it in just 5 days. So if you want to be a part of that, there's a couple different paying points if you're able to do it. It is an investment, but if you have a problem with the price and need to work out a payment plan or something like that, get with me, man. I don't want money to be an issue for you not to be able to go through this. If you feel called, if you feel aligned, I believe that God, the universe, will open up doors for you to be able to get the money to pay for it. But it's definitely showing you how to make money and how to step into wealth, and how to because we're definitely dealing with changing your relationship with money. Some of you guys have a bad relationship with money. You're chasing money and it's just running from you. It's running. You get money. As soon as you get it, it's already gone. You never have enough. Like, there's just this crazy relationships that we've had, and I've definitely been there, and I've had to change my thinking and change my mind and go through some of this stuff. So if you're looking to do that and you're looking to grow with a small group, 8-week program, Path of the Healer, go to TruthSeekah.com and sign up there. Send me an email if you have any questions, or you want to jump on a call with me and talk a little bit about it and go through some of the stuff. With that, I'm going to say peace and shalom, man. Love you guys, and we'll do it again. Thursday is going to be a good show as well. So peace, guys. Shalom.
Your way so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine, so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.